Thriving Women Talk is the affiliate of the Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. You are streaming live with the Thrive Tribe, the number one talk show for thriving women. And here's your host, Andrea Bowenzi.
Tribe because we represent women like you that are progressing, flourishing, and thriving. Our mission each week is to inspire and empower our listeners to thrive, not just survive on your life's journey. So let's take a moment and introduce you to our Thrive Tribe. Joining us today, we have Noelle Ramos, a registered representative for CoreCap Investments out of Grayson, Georgia. Sabrina Protic, author and certified life coach from Tampa Bay, Florida. Stacy Soli, menopause coach from Palm Harbor, Florida. And we have also joining us our Thriving Women business correspondents, Deidre Pittman, tax strategist from Tampa Bay, Florida, Dana Washington, a real estate investor, also from Tampa Bay, Florida, and Sherry Thompson, financial coach from Flossmoor, Illinois. So Thriving Women continue to support and recognize the scientists, doctors, nurses, firemen, policemen, and first responders that wake up every morning around the world to save and protect while we continue to do our part in shelter in place. We also continue to support all of the grocery workers that are working the front lines, and also restaurants, those that are still continuing to go out and serve us that are doing our best to shelter in place. We certainly wouldn't be able to continue to survive without you guys, so we appreciate all the work and hard and help that you guys are doing. So I wanted to thank also our national and international listeners for tuning into Thriving Women. We've got some inspiring news. Sabrina, what did you come up with today?
Yes, Andrea, this is very inspiring news. It's one of these feel-good reports that you get. This is just in time for Mother's Day. We have a company called Green Circle Growers of Ohio, and they're actually honoring America's healthcare workers by donating this, get this, $1 million in orchids. I love orchids.
Yeah.
To our frontline caregivers in 7 markets. These are the markets that are hit hardest by corona pandemic, such as Boston, Dallas, Detroit, Los Angeles, of course, New York, and Tampa, my hometown. And I love it. And its home is actually near Cleveland. This is an extraordinary time. It's important for our organization to find ways that we can contribute and basically be an answer to this pandemic problem. This is coming from the CEO of this company that is donating this $1 million. His name is Scott Geisenbrecht. Now, also another CEO of Just Add Brands Orchids and also this Green Circles Growers, they also jumped on the bandwagon to assist these frontline workers. They said, we realize that our nation's healthcare workers have been experiencing some of the darkest days in our lifetimes. And I tell you, I see this on social media, some pictures and stories that I see. It's really rough for them. They went on to say that if their orchids can provide just a little bit of joy and color for these well-deserving individuals, then they felt that it was the least they could do during this time of difficulty. More than 50,000 orchids have been delivered to those on the front lines at hospitals, nursing homes, homeless shelters, food banks, and more. So, I mean, we have to give a round of applause to these organizations that have recognized these workers. What woman, and see, these healthcare workers are not just women, but who doesn't like to be recognized as something as beautiful as these orchids? So, very inspiring story. Sherry Thompson, what do you think?
You know what? I think that's awesome. I love flowers myself. Orchids smell wonderful. But the one thing I like more than flowers is food. So I have a very inspiring story, and this is about food. So again, in the midst of this pandemic, which has cost, businesses so much, Marco's Pizza, and this one was in Colony, Texas, they were robbed. And of course, along with several other businesses in that community also on April 19th. But they looked at the surveillance from the security cameras and found that the burglars, they appear to be amateurs. They're fumbling through doors, for 5 to 10 minutes, trying to open up the safe with just a pizza spatula. So you can tell this isn't what these people are used to. So these pair of would-be thieves walked away almost empty-handed because there wasn't much in the store to begin with. So again, this isn't something that they were used to. So the owner, and his name is Kawanawita, I believe that's how you pronounce it. But he took this as a reminder of the desperate times that we are living in. And he decided to do something to help. I love that. You turn adversity into help. He posted a compassionate message on Facebook. This is what he said. In the incoming months, if you find yourself in a situation unable to put food on the table, please stop by our store. Now, there is no need to be shy or embarrassed. All you have to do is speak with the manager and quietly let us know you've seen this post. We will make sure your family gets a meal. That is inspiring.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things for me is food. You can take away everything else, but don't take away my food. And there's a lot of people that go around hungry. I mean,
That's my love language.
That's my love language is food. Man, you want anything out of me? Give me a meal, and I'm
sure enough.
So I just think that's awesome, even in the times that we're in, that and even though these people, robbed from them, but they found a way to find good in it. And they said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to help individuals and I'm going to feed people. So if you need a meal, come in and see the manager and we will feed you. That's awesome. Yeah. I love it. Dana, I know you've got some great things to say, too.
In my mind.
I'm still just, this one is a little different. Grandma is making a profound impact to strangers throughout the internet. Michelle streams game videos such as Call of Duty from her basement where she lives, which at first sounds like a young gamer going too far, right? Well, the twist is that Michelle Stratum is actually a grandmother living in her kid's basement. But don't call her Miss Stratum. Her screen name is Tactical Grandma, or just Grandma, So Stratum started streaming over 5 months ago and already is a gaming content creator who is filling a void. Every day she listens to volunteers who are just struggling. Game streaming is actually a social format in which content creators like Tactical Grandma broadcast live videos of games they are playing. And public forums like Facebook are platforms that allow virtual strangers to join in and tune in. So the viewers can actually see the gamer's face, they can interact, but remain anonymous. And this position of obscurity actually allows visitors to talk and post comments while remaining nameless if they wanted to. So Tactical Grandma, her viewers are from all walks of life. Many are facing challenges brought on by COVID-19. Others are just single parents dealing with challenges brought on from work or from school. But at the end of the day, each person she speaks with receives much comfort and advice. So hats off to Tactical Grandma. She's definitely qualified to give us advice based on her experience. And kudos to the video games because I'm going to tell you, unlike me, Pac-Man is all I know. I don't understand the new gaming. So, we all need that. This is gaming, streaming game is the new way of life. And if she could do it, kudos, and at the same time give advice. So, Andrea, what do you think about our grandma over here?
That's exciting and good for her. Putting yourself out there, playing a video game, and like you, Dana, I'm not as savvy on those video games. My 16-year-old and his friends can cuddle up all day for, I'm sure, days straight if I didn't make them take the break. And they have a great time on those gaming systems. And they have friends all across the world. So, I think that's awesome that she gives people an opportunity just to have not only an outlet by playing, a game that they have somebody to talk to. I just think that's incredible. Who would have thought, that could be a way for her to just be a leader. That's awesome. So thanks, guys, for sharing that. We have some inspiring news that's going on in the world around us, and we have a very empowering show for our listeners today. In our Life Strategies segment, we're going to talk about the importance of pivoting during this global pandemic and consider learning new skills that may open up new doors of opportunity. In our Business Strategies segment, we will have an open discussion on the pros and cons of contact tracing. So what is that? Contact tracing is the process of identification of persons who may have come into contact with an infected coronavirus person and subsequent collection of further information about these contacts. So through contact tracing, they say, it is crucial to allowing the world's economies to reopen without reigniting the infection rates. This is something that I thought was super interesting. Apple and Google announced 3 weeks ago that they'd developed software to help fight the coronavirus pandemic, and that was a big deal. The tech giants are fierce competitors, and they rarely cooperate. But together, their software controls about 3 billion smartphones, equal to almost 40% of the world's population. So we're going to lean in on this topic today. But real quick, we're going to take a sponsor break, and then when we return, we'll chat with our Thrive Tribe on how we can pivot during this time of global crisis. We'll be right back.
Membership for mentorship. TMG is an exclusive Facebook mentoring membership for thriving entrepreneurs with a culture of caring and sharing. TMG's mission is mentoring, inspiring, and empowerment. And if you're a thriving entrepreneur and inspired to surround yourself with like-minded peak performers, join TMG's exclusive membership group on Facebook by sending a members request to the Trendsetter Mentor Group. We are your membership for mentorship. Back to Thriving Women Talk.
You are streaming live with the Thrive Tribe. With the unemployment rate reaching 14%, we can agree that keeping ourselves stimulated and finding new ways to learn essential skills can make the eventual return to work smoother or open our doors to new opportunities in the future. With COVID-19 sending everyone inside, you might be wondering what to do with all the extra time at home. Instead of getting lost in the sea of scary news and social media posts, turn your attention back to work. With many live events going digital, so many more resources are already available online. Now is the time to get ahead and bolster your resume. So this is how you boost your skills or learn some new ones for free. There are so many virtual events, you guys, so many. These events wouldn't normally be available online, but they're now being offered virtually. Everybody's shifting from that live performance to the online platform. Large events such as Salesforce Connections and the Adobe Summit are not only virtual this year, but they are free to attend, making them available to you regardless of your location or budget. So to make the most out of every virtual event, treat each one as you would if you were attending it in person. Connect with the attendees before, during, and after. Post on social media using the event hashtag, and plan ahead to find the workshops and talks that are valuable to you. Deidre, I'd love for you to lean in on this topic.
Okay, well, I just consider myself the queen of virtual.
Yes.
Because as you all know, my business has been virtual for years, and I'm finding that right now with everything that's going on, and some people are just not accustomed to being on social media, doing those types of things. So it's kind of like it's a transition for them. But what I'm sharing with some of the ladies, and business owners that I know, you can co-work virtually. It's a great way that we can learn from each other, and also accountability. Starting that course. Actually, Harvard has free online courses. Can you believe that? So, getting the accountability you need to complete that course. Update your resume. with new certifications. And even at 65, I learned a new skill, and my daughter and I started a new business. So, these are things that we can all do now to kind of, help us make it through. Because most of us that have new skills and we aspire to learning, but, being stuck at home, whew, you have to really have a um, strong willpower really to even work from home, because your girlfriend, people, I don't know why people think just because you work at home you're not working. If you were at somebody's office, they wouldn't be calling you, but they want to call and chat. So you have to have structure. I mean, I am a stickler for structure. One of my clients messaged me yesterday. She was like, well, do I need to set an appointment to ask you a question? But that's just how how structured I am. And I really kind of enjoying the fact that I don't have to go to my gym anymore. She's actually doing it on Zoom. So I can still work out and get my exercise, but not have to leave the house. So I like that, and being structured, they kind of provide you the accountability that you show up, you invest time, and you make progress. And when those of you that, are going back to work, when you're able to head back, you can leverage your new skills for a raise, ching, ching, ching. A promotion usually means ching, 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 or even, take on a new role, allowing you to truly make the most of, this. In other words, turn this time that may not be so negative, into a positive. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting and it's exciting. I mean, there are some things that I would absolutely rather do online than in person, like a yoga class, for example.
Yeah.
I would definitely be more interested in doing that online just because, you guys, I am an athlete and I cannot get yoga down. So Sherry, forgive me, but that's something that I'm practicing in my own home before we go out somewhere public.
Nope.
But, I do love the part about learning new skills and taking the opportunity when you do return to work. And maybe you don't return to work. Maybe,
Exactly.
Your employer is shifting completely to online, but now you have some new skills that are making you more valuable to the team. And you can leverage that for, those promotions and the raises like Deidre mentioned. And, as a financial coach personally, I love to hear about that because there you are putting in work in your extra time, or, maybe it's not extra time, but maybe you find time in different areas, different pockets of your day. And now you are able to put yourself and your family in a better financial position to meet those goals more quickly just by taking those free classes on Harvard. That's pretty awesome. So we have, many of us have had to pivot, and we've had to kind of shift our way of thinking. And Sabrina and Noelle are good examples of pivoting and enhancing their skills during the coronavirus pandemic. Sabrina Protic, your employer, as I understand, furloughed you, and instead of just sitting around collecting unemployment, this girl got up and was looking for a new way to improve herself and improve her situation. And so she pivoted and decided to get a life insurance producer's license and also an online certification to become a financial coach. So Sabrina, can you share with our listeners what inspired you to make that change?
Sure, Andrea. Well, I was always taught to make a decision or one will be made for you. Mm-hmm. So rather than sitting around waiting on someone to decide what to do with me, I decided what to do with me. I looked around and I thought to myself, what would happen if I separated myself, either through my decision or through my employer's decision? How would I be impacted? Well, a couple of things. My financial investments, my life insurance, my health insurance, all those things would be grossly impacted. And that's when a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, well, if 30 million people have lost their jobs, that means that they too are going to be impacted by the loss of these things that I just mentioned. And I thought, this is a great pivot point for me. because not only do I perceive a need for myself, I see there's a need for other people out there. What a wonderful opportunity for me to help empower other people. As you know, I stand for empowerment, empowering people to improve themselves, be the best they can be. Being a financial coach is a great way to empower people to take control of the things that are necessary in their lives. And we need to maintain our assets. We need life insurance. We need those things. We need to know how to protect those things. So it's another arm of my coaching as a certified life coach. I embrace that. And to me, this just goes hand in hand, and I hit the ground running. And along with getting a license in this area under the state of Florida, I'm also engaged in a 10-week coaching program to teach me how to be the Navy SEAL, the Navy SEAL of being in this industry. And I'm telling you, I consider myself a smart woman, but we have to be humble. We have to be humble, like Deidre Pittman said, learn a new skill. So I am a student now to learn this so that I can have the credentials to be able to truly and ethically assist someone. So I'm excited about this opportunity. My brain is open. I'm going to say, as Deirdre Pittman said, at my age, I'm learning something new, and I'm still able to have the mental capacity. So I want to encourage our listeners, look, you can pivot. Look at what's going on around you and see where there's a need and fill that need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, something we have to keep in mind, the day that we stop learning, we stop growing. And for me, it's like, okay, what's the point after that? We want to continue to feed our brains and just learn that information so we can turn around and continue to pay it forward in the best way possible through our communities. Noah Ramos is a financial advisor, and due to the coronavirus, her investment clients are a little reluctant to meet as regularly, and I'm feeling it too. So we have to change things up, and instead of waiting for the coronavirus to leave, she decided to pivot and learn some new skills in apprenticeship and working with an entrepreneur, which I think is fabulous, just because sometimes when you take that break away, that can help you re-energize your brain and your creativity. So Noelle, you want to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely, Andrea. So I know, we're both financial advisors. So although the Zoom calls are pretty great, we only get dressed up from the waist up. It's a little bit harder to talk to clients that way. And again, with being a financial advisor, you have to create, and a financial coach, you have to create that trust. And it's not always, maybe with your older clients, so easily to do over Zoom, because they want to see you. They want to be able to, talk to you. And everybody's trying to figure out the Zoom thing. But recently, I did actually pivot. I reached out to a buddy of mine who is also an entrepreneur, and he's a handyman of quite a bit of all sorts, so to speak. So recently, we are I've learned to put on soft top Jeeps. So we take off the old toppers of the Jeeps and we put on new soft top Jeeps. It's not a difficult job. And then he also has me doing electrician. So we run wire, we install cameras, we install TVs. And so he's got me doing a little bit of everything. And like Sabrina and Deidre mentioned, it's definitely a humbling experience because, I went from dressing up nice, being, going visiting clients, to finding my bummiest of clothes and kind of
jeans and your work boots out,
getting my work boots on, getting my hat on, and working with my hands, using drills. I'm learning also how to strip and wax floors. And next recently, he says we're going to learn how to build sheds. So that's going to be interesting. I'm only 5'2", so imagine me trying to put on some of these Jeep toppers. It's a struggle with my little ladder. I'm like having to move it every couple inches just to try and get a screw in, and, having to use the drill. It's really interesting, trying not to fall off the Jeep because, these country boys, they like to jack up their Jeeps. So their tires are about as tall as where I'm at. So it's like, this is fun.
So I think that, I think that's a great skill. I think that's a great experience for you. As coaches, we all have stories. We all come from somewhere. We all have, our own journeys, and that's really why we're here talking to you today is we're all going through different things and we're learning different things and we are relatable to so many different people. So Noelle, these experiences for you, even though it's not ideal because being a financial coach is a blast. I love it. But there are some times when you got to get
Definitely.
out there and learn something new so you can be relatable to clients. And, who knows, you may meet somebody out there that needs you and your coaching and your guidance.
Oh,
So
yeah, definitely.
kudos
I
to
mean, I
you.
hand out my business cards. Heck yeah. I'm like, they're like, is this something you do normally? I'm like, no.
This is new for me. Very awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. Stacy Soli, wanted to get your perspective from this. I know we've been talking about social distancing and different ways to pivot, and Stacy is the queen of pivoting. This is definitely one of her words. What are you thinking about all this?
Oh, thanks, Andrea. I'm just still chuckling and just imagining. I got the picture of Noelle doing the Jeep covers. And you know what? I think it is fantastic to see that regardless of what's going on, it's not stopping you. It may not be ideal, but you know what? Diversification and finding different streams of income, that's awesome. Love it. And yeah, so this whole, social distancing, and even though some of the different areas are starting to kind of open up, I'm noticing myself and, some of my other friends and clients that are still a little bit hesitant. And it's, giving an opportunity to really look at what it is that we want moving forward. And, I heard Deirdre say that she likes the online, or the class that she's taking with the yoga. And so it looks like some of these things I think might move forward that are a little bit more unique. So, some people have had ideas that they've wanted to, write a novel or, do something during this time. And it really is an amazing time to be able to create something. And, one of the encouraging side effects of this crisis is that everyone has a story and it gives you an opportunity to be able to use that creativity, and maybe you wouldn't have done it before. And really, these new writers have a better chance of getting their work read at this moment, and because people are having a little bit more time, right? They're at home. And so this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to share your story. And I know we invited published author Michelle to show us, this inspiring way to our listeners how, to consider writing their own story. So I want to welcome Michelle, and I can't wait to hear what she has to say. So Michelle, can you share with our listeners what inspired you to write your first book, and how did that event change your life?
Well, what inspired me to write my first book was what changed my life, actually.
Yeah.
I was in a car accident in 2014, so I was in the political world. I wrote for politicians. And in 2014, I was in a car accident where I lost 4 areas of my brain. My frontal lobe over my left ear, the back of my head, my 2 hemispheres disconnected. And for 18 months, I didn't walk or talk. And so trapped in my head, I figured, maybe I'm dead already and I just don't know it. And about 19 months later, I came out. I started walking and talking, and the neurologist said they don't know why I'm doing that, but they don't know how long it's going to last. So while I was trapped in my head, I was thinking about everything I wanted to tell my children that I never got a chance to say. The last thing I said to them was, hurry up, we're late for school. And then they never heard me speak again. So writing that first book was more of a gift to my children. And after I wrote it, my family said, why aren't you giving this to the world? And that's how the book came out. I wanted to leave something for my children, and then realized, you know what? This is more than my children. Everyone can benefit from this by living their best life. So my book is called Eat, Drink, and Be Merry, A Glimpse into a Life Well Lived. And it's based off my TEDx that I did.
Wow, that's amazing.
I got chills.
Yeah. Wow.
So fear really keeps people from taking that leap of faith, Michelle. Would you say to somebody, what would you say to somebody that thinks they don't have anything to write about?
I say this so often to my clients because, like all of you, I'm also a coach. But I always tell them that we all have a story, and we all experience something in our life, be it good or bad. Most of my problems are people say, well, my life was so easy, I don't have a story to tell. And I always say, well, why do you think the Brady Bunch was so popular? Because people want a non-stress story to live in, to read. So if you think you don't have a story, you have a story just because you think you don't have a story. And the thing that's great about writing a story, especially even if you only write it for your children or your grandchildren, your family, whatever, once you write it and you see your words on print, it changes. And you'll want to give it to the world because not only your family will benefit from it, but it gives you credibility of whatever you're sharing. A book.
Yeah. I love how you said everybody has a story, and I think that so many of us can be afraid to share that. Maybe we feel isolated. Maybe we feel like we're just going through it, and this is just how it is. But again, when you share your story, and if it's in written form or as a speaker, you are being transparent to those and showing the others that maybe are going through something similar. That it's okay to open your mouth and experience these things and really take the best of these lessons and grow from them. You're currently blogging on your book, It's Not Luck Overcoming You. How can reading author blogs inspire you or others to write their stories?
I wanted to be part of the author blog because of so many people who say they don't have anything to write about. And what you'll see by reading author blogs, if you're considering writing a book or thinking, I don't have anything to write about, when you read the author blogs, you'll see that authors, these are just simply people just like everyone else who are just sharing what we know. And if you are in business in any way, shape, or form, sharing what you know is what we do. And in order to connect with people, you share stories of your life. So why not put it in a printed form? And then that way, people do business with those they know, like, and trust. But if they've got a book with your story in it, even more so they feel as if they already know you. It jumps the gun on know, like, and trust. They feel like they have you in their hand and at their home. It jumps you into we trust you already. Let's do business.
Yeah. No, I love it. Thank you. And thank you, Sabrina and Noelle. We're going to take another sponsor break, and when we return, Noelle and Stacy are going to introduce our highly recommended book, Blend, which is a secret to co-parenting and creating a balanced family. We will be right back.
And Life Strategies is powered by Women Entrepreneurial Empowerment, commonly called WEE. The organization's mission is empowering women entrepreneurs through a platform of visibility, education, and strategic growth and development within the networking arena. Their doors are open to women of all ages, millennials, new startups, small business, and those needing a boost. If you are committed to excellence and you want to know more about WEE platform, message founder Sabrina Protic on Facebook or email her at www.agelesstechniques.com. Back to Thriving Women Talk.
Welcome back to Thriving Women Talk. Did you know Thriving Women has a book club? Thriving Women Book Club mission is to inspire our listeners to read more and write their story, as we just heard. So a recent survey by Fast Company states the average number of books read by a CEO is 60 books per year, or 5 books per month. Oprah Winfrey said, "What I know for sure is that reading opens you up, it exposes you, and it gives you access to anything your mind can hold. It gives you the ability to reach higher ground." Warren Buffett is another confirmed bibliophile who reportedly reads an astounding average of 500 pages per day. You guys, 500 pages a day is a lot. I struggle to do 10.
Right? Struggle with the chapter.
don't let that overwhelm you. This is Warren Buffett. He attributes his success partly to his voracious reading habit and encourages others to incorporate reading into their daily routines. So maybe start with 10 pages. Noelle, Stacy,
What do you guys think? Yeah, I'm going to start with 10 pages because I struggle too, because especially if it's a book I'm struggling to sync up with.
Get into, yeah.
It's a struggle, but I just want to, we talked about, we're book of the club month now, and so we're starting this new book called Blend, written by Mashonda Tarif, I'm not sure, Mashonda. So statistics show that 1 in 3 Americans is now a step-parent, stepchild, step-sibling, step-anything, or other member of a blended family. 1 in 3 Americans. So that number of first-time marriages or romantic relationships, sadly, they're ending, in divorce, and they're ending in breakups, and the high percentages of remarriages and new relationships involve children. So that's definitely a unique situation whenever you're starting a new relationship and there's children involved. So this just becomes a rebirth of a new family dynamic. And of course, you have to make sure the children are the center of this well-being dynamic. So in this book, Mashonda, she shares intimate details on how she and her co-parents use communication, lots and lots of communications, and a buttload of patience, I'm sure, and just a lot of love to just create that environment where they were able to just even be able to work as a team, and all the children were involved could just thrive.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Noelle, that's, when you're looking at that statistic, it really just, just hearing those numbers really brings life to, all of these
Right.
children. And what an amazing story in this book. Highly recommend the readers, take a look at this because, we've all either been affected or had family members that are going through this. And in January of 2010, singer Mashonda and music producer Swizz Beatz, I believe it's her name, they finalized their divorce. And when Swizz married songwriter Alicia Keys, they had a whole new dynamic, right? 3 adults who loved and were deeply committed to raising Mashonda and Swizz's 4-year-old son, Kasim. So in the book Blend, Mashonda draws on the insights that they gained from their journey, as well as advice from family therapists and co-parenting experts and other blending families to really provide an invaluable resource for blended families. So it really shows that they were reaching out for support and, putting their son first. Which
Right.
we've seen that doesn't always happen, right?
No, sadly, Stacy, it doesn't happen, and sometimes we use our children as a what's the word? We use them as a trophy instead of what they're there for. We use them as leverage.
Yeah.
Leverage is what I was looking for. So back in 2008, which now Mashonda's 40, was just at the start of her healing process. And of course, she had a long way to go because you go through a divorce. It's not an easy process to go through. So in the midst of separating from Beats, she was really struggling to stay positive for herself and her son KJ, because there was reports swirling around that Beats had ended their relationship to pursue Alicia Keys. So it was a bit scandalous there for a minute, but of course, there's 2 sides to every story. We were not there. So Beats and Alicia Keys claimed that they claimed that wasn't, they denied it. So Mashonda just writes that she now regrets having spoken out publicly and angrily at that time about her suspicions, because something she said was fueled by ego. And we've all been there. Our pride gets hurt, and we kind of speak out of turn, and whether we know or not. But it didn't. She needed to have some kind of validation, and she was just reaching. But still, it's still a tough time. So to write Blend, she said, I had to reopen wounds, and many weeks I'd drop my son off at school, come home, hibernate, write, and then cry. So I can only imagine, she had to reopen a lot of wounds and having to go through that, because she's pretty much reliving her divorce, and everything she felt went wrong and where it was going. So it took about 2 years into blending to just make it all happen. But when it did, it was like turning a light switch on, she says. She realized that they could minimize the impact on their children by just reducing the conflict that they had with one another. And there was never any big blowouts, so there were times when they didn't really fully agree on everything, which is completely normal, because even if you were together, who agrees on everything? That's no fun. But they were comfortable with just letting it go. So they were happy that they did it. Keys 38 tells people, I'm assuming the magazine, of their family accomplishments. So they were just happy that, we did it, we got it done. So they learned from their mistakes. So Mashonda and Swiss and I, this is Alicia Keys speaking, worked and prayed together, and it allowed the space for everyone to be heard. So it's one thing that they were most proud of. So they actually acted like adults after a while and accomplished what they needed to accomplish.
Wow. That's really something to be proud of, because, I can't imagine some of my conversations being in the public limelight, Hollywood. I can't imagine that, having to not only go through this, but for everybody to really be able to see it.
Right.
So yes, I think that's amazing. I know that she also, Mashonda also stated, that the blending, what she's calling it really takes constant work. And, to quote her, she says, "We all recently had a therapy session to maintain the relationship, but it's worth it. The kids are going to graduate high school, college, and get married. And one day we're going to be grandparents to the same babies, all things we want to be celebrating." So, that's such an amazing thing to be able to look at the future of it, because they are tied, right? And really this deep message from the book is that you can co-parent with someone and completely, hate them, or you can do the work. So it's really about being an example of love and wholeness for your child. It's an amazing quote.
Right. We've said this word a couple of times throughout the show already, and it's called being humble. You got to pretty much humble yourself and realize you have to make that sacrifice. So Dr. Shafali, a PhD, and he is New York Times, I think it's a she actually, New York Times best-selling author of The Conscious Parent and The Awakened Family, states that this book is just transformative. So it's a big shifter for these families who were experiencing divorce or separation. And this book kind of just shows parents kind of how to reset their egos, reset their brains, and how more to enter into their hearts. So there was a way to just reconfigure our families post-divorce in a way that is positive and life-affirming. So I just want to encourage all our listeners to get the book, and we blog on this book each week, and you can join with us. It's on the Thrive Tribe, and you can send us a friend request to the Trendsetter Mentor group on Facebook. We would love to hear from you guys and hear your opinions on this book blend as well, along with ours.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. And thank you for peeling back the layers of the book blend. It's definitely worth the read if you are divorced or or in a co-parent situation. I'm definitely getting some good tools out of that. So I think you should pick it up. We're going to take a quick sponsor break, and when we come back, we will introduce our business strategy segment. We'll be right back.
The Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. TMG is an exclusive Facebook mentoring membership for thriving entrepreneurs with a culture of caring and sharing. TMG's mission is mentoring, inspiring, and empowering. And if you're a thriving entrepreneur and inspired to surround yourself with like-minded peak performers, join TMG's exclusive membership group on Facebook by sending a member's request to the Trendsetter Mentor Group. We are your membership for mentorship. Back to Thriving Women Talk.
44 states and the District of Columbia, they now have plans to expand their contact tracing workforce. reaching a total of 66,197 workers. That's an increase by 30,000 people. And I just can't believe they more than doubled the number of people that were planned last week when we first. So, super interesting and exciting to learn as we go. Public health leaders widely agree that communities need to ramp up their capacity to test, trace, and isolate in order to safely ease up on social distancing measures and allow people to get back to work. The idea behind this public health strategy is simple. Keep the virus in check by having teams of public health workers, epidemiologists, and nurses, trained citizens, training people identify how to recognize these positive cases. How do we track down their contacts? How do we know where they've been? It's pretty serious. We are doing the social distancing to help reduce that spread, but people still have to get around. They still have to go. Some still have to go to work. Many are still going grocery shopping. But how are we going to continue to track and trace those who are maybe infected and just not knowing it? So, Noelle, what is the business strategy here?
So pretty much Apple and Google have gotten together when they gave a surprise announcement that the companies are spinning up a system that's going to enable a widespread, quote-unquote, contact tracing. And this is going to be in an effort to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. So the effort is barely a month old. So we at Thriving Women Show, we've decided to keep you guys, our listeners, informed, and we want to keep everybody in the know. So the basic idea behind it, of this contact tracing, is that jurisdictions, it flattens the curve of infection and is beginning to consider reopening some parts of society, and they need to implement a more comprehensive test and trace scheme. So basically they need to test people widely and thoroughly for the disease, and as they discover new cases, they want to see who are the people that they have come in contact with during the time that they were infectious. So historically, this has been a more manual process. But since the COVID-19 outbreak began, some countries have actually turned to technological means in an effort to enable public health authorities to find more people who may have been exposed. You can't knock technology. It makes things go so much smoother, so much faster, most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. So far, it's not clear on the tech-enabled contact tracing has been all that effective. There's always kinks to work out when starting something new, because this is brand new for us, or for them. The system relies on pretty much voluntary participation, which has been generally pretty weak, sadly. And the Bluetooth technology on which the system depends on carries it with a high potential for false positives. So it's not just powerful enough to distinguish between cases where people were in very close proximity from ones in which they were 15 or more feet away. Wow. Okay. So the biggest concern most people have expressed about this collaboration is that it will lead to damaging privacy violations. Rightly so. I mean, some people, I love my privacy. I turn my location off all the time.
Yeah,
so
yep.
I always feel somebody's watching me. Big brother's watching. So
And
in
they
our
are.
life, yeah.
Go
So in
figure.
our life strategy segments, we're going to do a little chat with the Thrive Tribe to compare the pros and cons of contact tracing.
So, Sabrina, let's talk about the pros and cons of using technology that really didn't exist in the Spanish flu of 1918.
Well, Andrea, there are some definite pros and cons to this. I'm kind of a private person, so I'm kind of learning the value of this. But let's kind of look at what's happening right now. So the pros to this is big companies like Google, Apple, and Facebook, they're actually working together to capture data about during this coronavirus season, I'm going to call it, that could potentially save our lives. Well, how is that? Well, after all of this data is collected, it can be used to predict upcoming events like hotspots, prepare hospitals, and ensure that we have enough supplies that we need. Like we can see what's happening with supplies now, so that this data would have been important. And also the data collection can help create trend models that could be used to help to determine when we'll be able to open our country back up again. So now I'm starting to get a warm fuzzy just a little bit. And these companies, they kind of like analytic software. There's one software provider called SAS, and they're already using this data from the supply chain to help these hospitals and healthcare institutions better understand how and where these supplies are being used. They're also using predictive models that help organizations determine what supplies they're going to need in the coming weeks based upon expected changes in case volume. And we can kind of see this unfolding. Now, here's a question. What if that data wasn't a prediction, but it was accurate? Because we're talking about predictors now. What difference could that make in the supply chain? We can certainly say that these models in this COVID pandemic that we have struggled significantly due to a lack of precise data to build models. Case in point, I'm just going to throw it out there. Look at what happened with toilet paper. If we'd had some kind of some predictors there to know what consumer demand would be, perhaps we wouldn't have been in this panic. So, Dana, I mean, given what we've talked about here, how does this technology benefit employment and small businesses?
You know, this brings up the second pro. Using this type of data can help us open the country up much sooner. Contract tracing is going to be crucial if we want to return to some type of normalcy sooner than later. Giving up the data to be able to know what if the virus is spreading seems like a fair trade-off. Whether people shelter in place more serious because they know that they're being tracked, or the data itself help health authorities stay better prepared for the cases. Either way, we could be seeing a far shorter period of isolation with the help of AL, data, and other technologies that we would not rather see. So, Andrea, any thoughts on from you or Sherry?
Well, I mean, I know Sherry's got a lot to lean in on here, and we definitely want to be aware of what we're doing, what we're putting out there, and like you guys have expressed, you know, our privacy is definitely important to us. But I'm feeling, I don't know, trying to be neutral here.
I got some mixed emotions.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. Like, I absolutely understand the why. I think the how definitely needs some adjusting, and in order to gain some participation from others, it needs to be clear, because the information that we're discussing right here today, there's still a lot of like gobbledygook in there, and it's not a really clear direction. Sherry, what do you think?
Well, you know what? With good, there's always, and I'm not going to call it bad, I'm just going to say not so good. So obviously, you know, the greatest kind of capturing location and health data is how the data itself could be used or breached in the future. You know, already we're seeing people concerned that sharing health information on sites like 23andMe, you know, those could lead to issues in obtaining health insurance or even having their DNA used to track criminal activity. Although I wouldn't mind, but it's not about me. So no one knows, you know, in this moment, the extent to which this data will be used, despite promises from each of these companies, you know, to keep the data anonymous. And honestly, I mean, do we really trust Facebook to keep our information private at this point? Do we really? So big tech
Nope.
as a whole, not at all, not at all. Big tech as a whole has had its woes with data privacy, and this is a big part of why the alarm bells are going off for so many people. It is important to note, though, that today most of the data captured, tracked, and surveyed by big tech is anonymized before being distributed. That's what they say. However, to truly leverage this tech for something like COVID-19 tracing, the data would have to be much more granular, and in some cases, anonymized data wouldn't be an option. Now, Deirdre, we just heard, Andrea, she's like, I don't know, about this privacy. I'm not sure. People are concerned about privacy issues. What's your thoughts about that, Deidre?
Well, first of all, the greatest question here is whether allowing this type of tracking is going to lead to an end of a life, as we've known it, at least here in the U.S. Because once we allow it for the tracking of COVID victims, will we use it to track every other virus that comes up? What if it had been used to track AIDS victims? My concern is hate crimes, because we already see some stuff that's going on, across the United States with people, getting all violent, because they feel that, they're enslaved because, they have to, stay at home. So, could this lead to hate crimes and other act of prejudice, against people who've been exposed to the virus? That's my concern, because I'm actually I checked the CDC website out earlier today, talking about this contact tracing. They actually have training for this, so I'm just like, I don't know. But also, listen, TransUnion, the credit bureaus get hacked. Okay, so people really thinking that they're, I get clients all the time. Well, I don't want to send you my social security number. I'm like, honey, please. If they want to hack it, they're going to hack it. Okay. So the thing is, our personal information, it's, out there, made public, is it going to be easily accessible? And once this can of data worms is opened up, honey, it cannot be closed again. So those are some of my concerns. And, the U.S., they're turning to mobile tracking to help contain the virus, and the changes caused by the emergency has happened so quickly that there's just been really little chance for governance and regulation of the surveillance methods, to even catch up. Because, like, for example, in South Korea, their country is creating specific maps showing cases of COVID-19 and where each person has been, so that the residents can check to see if they may have encountered it. So, like I said, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with this, but Sabrina, girl, what it sounds like. Big Brother is watching, so what can we do?
But Deirdre, you're absolutely right about that. Right now, as it stands, the United States doesn't seem to be too fazed by being tracked. Or at least it doesn't seem to be, because the United States, we don't see a change in behavior. And what we mean by that is any type of effort to avoid being pinged by this data that's coming out. So let's look at the social distancing, the scorecard, for instance, in our country as a whole. Do you know that we received a C-? Boy, my mom would tear me up if I got a C- on anything.
Girl,
that
B's or better, yeah.
Girl, don't even bring a regular C home, let alone a C-. I couldn't. No C's in the family.
See you later.
Yes. Yeah. C-. That's failing in my household. So we got a C-, and with this data collection. So here's some states such as Nevada. They got a B+. Kudos to Nevada. Others, especially in the South, Deirdre, this is going to hurt my heart, got an F.
I can see that.
Got Fs. We received Fs, and we can see the pushback. Living here in Florida, we see the pushback that people are giving to the social distancing. So get this. Nobody in the U.S. received an A. That's so bad.
That's
I'm telling
pitiful.
my mama wouldn't be happy. So we had to live in the A's and the B's. B's were okay,
Yes.
A's were, that's what was accepted. So we as Americans, I guess it can be said that we're workaholics. But if mitigation is not the most critical course of action and working towards an end to this crisis, then the data itself is suggesting that it's really not our strong suit. Girl, we got some work to do
Yes,
in the
we
United
do.
States. Yes,
Yes,
we
we
do.
do.
Andrea, what do you
Yeah.
think of all of this?
Oh man, my brain is buzzing. I'm a numbers girl. I'm a financial coach. I love the numbers. I don't love the numbers more than I love the people.
Amen.
Relationships are so important, but the numbers don't lie, and so if numbers are being tracked and reported correctly, then we really need to pay attention. And I think there are so many people that, feel differently about that. Everybody has their theory. Scroll through Facebook and pick a post that says COVID on it. You're going to find somebody that disagrees with somebody else, and before you know it, it's turning into this heated, ugly debacle. And, what drives that? People are afraid. They're afraid of being controlled. They're afraid of, the unknown. There's so many different factors that go into it. But if we learn and we educate ourselves and we make those educated decisions based on the information that we learn, I think that it just makes it better for everybody else. Now, there's that theory that the information that's posted out there is not true fact. So, this can just go on and on and on. We've got to take a sponsor break, and then we've got to wrap up today's show. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will have some final comments on contact tracing. We'll be right back.
Entrepreneurial Empowerment, commonly called WEE. The organization mission is empowering women entrepreneurs through a platform of visibility, education, and strategic growth and development within the networking arena. Their doors are open to women of all ages, millennials, new startups, small business, and those needing a boost. If you are committed to excellence and you want to know more about WEE platform, message founder Sabrina Protic on Facebook or email her at www.agelesstechniques.com. Back to Thriving Women Talk.
Welcome back to Thriving Women Talk. We've been talking, mostly focusing on social distancing, and today, contact tracing. The truth is this. The ultimate decision to track and unleash information regarding COVID-19 is not going to be made by us, the people. That's a decision that will be made by the government authorities, who may or may not understand the full implications of the precedents that they're setting in using surveillance in the name of public health. So in this case, the cat is already out of the bag. That happened long before any global health crisis began. And the priority now should be for us as a society to understand what data is being captured, how it's being used, and what, if anything, will change when the health crisis is over. At the end of the day, we're still human beings. And I believe it is in us to be good stewards of the tools, the information that we have, and to love each other as best and as wholeheartedly as we can. We hope that our listeners have enjoyed our show today on pivoting during this global pandemic. And we encourage you to continue working on learning that new skill, maybe becoming an author and writing your book. Participate in Thriving Women Book Club. Get out there. Join us on Facebook. Get the book blend, and lean into that topic if that's something that you're going through or have gone through in the past. Stay engaged. Don't let it just, don't drift away. Stay involved, stay engaged, keep learning, keep thriving. Special thanks to our Thrive Tribe, Noel Ramos, Sabrina Protic, Sherry Thompson, Stacy Soli, Deidre Pittman, Dina Washington. Ladies, thanks so much for joining me every week and leaning into these topics. Not all of them are easy to talk about, and we know that from today. Definitely have some things we've got to work out there, just in the understanding. I want to send out a special thanks to our producer, Daryl Johnson, and also our engineer for working behind the scenes. Most of all, We want to thank you, our loyal listeners from all around the world. Next week, we will continue our conversation on how we can continue to thrive while dealing with this global crisis. Thank you for taking the journey with us. Thriving Women Talk is powered by the Trendsetter Mentor Group, a membership for mentorship. Follow all of our hosts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you're interested in joining the Trendsetter Mentor Group or being a guest on Thriving Women Talk, please email Daryl Johnson at npartners@yahoo.com. Thank you for joining us, and we believe in you, and we believe that you will continue to thrive and not just survive.
You can follow all of our hosts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you're interested in joining the Trendsetter Mentor Group or being a guest on Thriving Women Talk, email Daryl Johnson at npartners@yahoo.com.